from a variety of sources. Part of it came from here, the premium. We also, as part of the refinance, in the 2002 bonds, we had a reserve fund deposit of, I want to say, $370,000. We changed that $370,000 into an insurance policy for $70,000, and as a result, got more money. So we basically got that reserve funds out of there. Flip to the next one.
Joe, do you remember how much it cost to issue the bonds? What was the cut to the Utah Public Finance Company?
This, I don't know who that is.
That was the man who issued the bonds for us out of Salt Lake.
Oh, you mean John? Yeah, George K. Brown. It's included in this number.
Yes, I'm just saying, as I recall in the bond thing, and I'll be happy to look it up, but I thought it cost us over $300,000 just to go through the bond process and get the bond issued.
I think his bill was in the order of 80.
I could probably find it.
I'll look it up again.
So let's flip to the next page. But that, just so you know, that cost is already drilled in here. So it's not something, even if you find additional costs, we still came away with $624,000.
But we still have to pay it back.
At the same rate that we paid in 2002. Okay, let's look at the comparison between the 2002 and 2012 bonds. What we did was we got the interest and principal payments on the 2002 bonds compared to the interest and principal payments on the 2012 bonds. The delta is $300,000. That's a gross number, not discounted for present value. Flip to the next one. Okay, so to summarize, the refinancing on the 2002 bonds, using coupon rates, 2002 was 3.9 to 5. We reduced it 2 to 4. The average coupon rate was 5.17. Reduced it to 3.0. Came away with a debt service savings over the life of the bond of $300,000. Came away with cash to the company of $624,000. Okay, there's been a lot of discussion about the Fitch ratings. And first of all, let's just make sure everybody's clear. I'm not saying or suggesting, and I acknowledge, a downgrade is not a good thing. Okay? If you'd have been AA plus and got downgraded to a AA, it would not be a good thing. The question is, what does the Fitch report and the Fitch analysis tell us about our company? First off, it was incorrect to state that an A+ rating is one step away from a B rating. As you can see, Fitch recognizes any number of ratings before we get to a BBB+. So that suggestion that we're on the verge of having a B rating is irresponsible. Okay, let's look at what the Fitch report does say. The Fitch report states that currently our debt metrics are very strong. Currently strong, I shouldn't say very. So right as we stand here today, our debt metrics are strong. Fitch gave us an A+ rating, knowing that our compensation schedule is what it is, and there's a lot of controversy about that apparently. We have unfunded retirement debt. They were very well of our total current debt, the duration of our debt, and they were clearly aware of the governance concerns that they point out in their thing. And with all of that stuff, what did they come back with? An A+ rating. An A+ rating is right here. So, are you suggesting, I hope not, that we're not going to do as good a job as has occurred in the past up till today? Are we going to have another CFO fired? We hope not, Bart. Are we going to have some of the concerns that have been raised? No. And what's interesting about all of this is Fitch agrees with me, because Fitch did an A+ rating, stable. They're not expecting it to go down. They're expecting it to remain stable. Fitch also tells us something very helpful to your rate discussion, and that is we need a 4.5% increase. Why? Because our strategic plan is called for, and we have a plan of work that requires it. Not for today, not to save, the company, but because we're growing and we have a plan of work that requires it. So I think it's really a mistake, to take the Fitch report and turn it into this, hobgoblin. Granted, we have some work to do. I mean, when we were in San Francisco, we weren't fighting for a AA-. We were fighting for a AA. And we're always fighting to go higher. And we will continue to do that. But we're at A+ now. World's not going to end. And the road that they've suggested to us puts us right where we want to be. And we can pursue. Okay, the other thing that the Fitch report doesn't talk about, and I've alluded to, is Fitch doesn't really care a great deal where your money comes from, as long as the bondholders get paid. I wouldn't use Fitch as a defense against careful look at our expenses. All of them. You guys want to look at compensation, God love you. But let's do it reasonably and rationally. Let's look at what the market requires for compensation, not anecdotal information, but real information. Let's finish the swallow study. Let's look at compensation. Let's look at all of our expenses. I think Bart will show you that there isn't a lot of wiggle room in our expenses to allow us to just finance this debt or this rate increase through reductions in expenses, but it's got to be looked at. Okay, last. Part of the confusion that was created as well was the misunderstanding about kind of the fundamental nature of our business, and also how we're different than other public power providers. Light and Power is a standalone entity. We provide from janitorial service to general manager and everything in between. We do our own accounting, we do our own billing, we do all of our own line work, and that makes us different. We're called the Joint Action Agency by some, interlocal in Utah. We're so unique because we do a standalone business that when APPA does its ratios of how businesses and municipalities work, it excludes interlocal type entities because we are so different. So it's a mistake to simply go out and grab a Logan City or a Payson and say, I caught you. Your compensation is out of whack. You've got too many employees. Let me explain. Logan City, according to Heidi's information, has 30 employees. We had some debate today. I didn't go back and check that, but for purposes of the discussion, let's assume that they do have 30 employees. And they have a lot more customers than we do. We have 36 employees. If you look at Logan City's budget, you'll see that part of the reason why they have fewer employees is because they don't do their own accounting and billing. It's handled by a different department for which they pay $1 million and some dollars outside of employee compensation. So their compensation number is necessarily lower, and their number of employees is necessarily lower because they don't provide the same internal services that we do. Same thing applies with Bart's position. They use their treasurer, I can't remember if it's a treasurer or auditor, one or the other, does all of their accounting functions. Now, I don't know how they do the budget. I was curious about that, but never was able to get an answer. The other thing that's different about Logan is our service territory is 155 square miles. Now, granted, there aren't customers there, there's a lot of cows between there, but there are power lines that go that whole distance. And our miles of line are 400 miles of line. So, what is Logan's service territory? Their service territory is 17 square miles. They don't have, and they have 80 miles of line. So clearly, we're going to have more people working on power lines than the number of our customers would suggest. You don't seem convinced. Oh,
No, I am convinced.
oh, okay. So but don't misunderstand again. Should we look at Logan? Sure. Should we use it as the paradigm with bold and underline that they have no debt, that they have fewer customers? No, that's not fair. It's not a fair comparison. I spent less time with Payson, frankly, because theirs was harder to follow. Payson's got two interesting things in theirs. By the way, they do also have a vehicle allowance. Everybody in Payson has a car. Under Payson's budget, they actually allocate a portion of their electricity revenue to like the city council or the central government. We don't have anything similar to that. They also make a dividend payment separately. So those additional expenses skew the percentages when you're looking at percent of expenses versus compensation. They also pay, and this is a big number for them, they also pay Utopia $250,000. I don't know why. Doesn't sound like electricity to me. But again, that makes their expenses look bigger, and their percent of compensation look smaller. So we need to look at those things. Again, did I do a bulletproof analysis? Don't even pretend to. What I'm trying to say to you is when you use anecdotal, you're a professor, you use anecdotal
That's all the time we
information.
have to do.
I know, but you
Yeah,
went out into the public and stated it as fact.
Because it is the fact. I need to know who you talk to at Logan and Payson. I have the names and the numbers of who I talk to.
I didn't talk to anybody at either place, because what I
Okay, so where
did
did you get your information?
out of their budget and both of their
So
budgets
just their
are
online
different.
websites?
Yes,
Okay, but there's nuances behind those numbers that we talk to people individually, and we try to get information. We have those names and those titles, and we have that information.
you presented your information as fact.
That's because they gave us those facts. Now,
Right, and you
you're
published
looking
it,
at
and
websites,
now,
that's fine.
and now are you
But I
willing
wanna
to
know
acknowledge your facts
documentation.
were mistaken?
No, I'm saying
I
that those are
didn't
the
think
facts
so.
I was given.
I didn't
And I
think so.
have the people,
Let me
their
just
job titles and their numbers, and we can call them up and we can verify it all.
Good. Go ahead and do it. It still doesn't change the fact that Logan City does not provide its own.
No, I
You did-
understand that part.
And
I
did you
do
express
understand
that to
part.
anyone?
No, it didn't come to
Yeah,
me
no.
until afterwards.
But you
see,
expressed everything else
Joe,
as the
you have to
fact.
understand, you're saying that maybe those aren't good comparisons.
Right.
But guess what? Truckee, where you've got your salary comparisons from 2011, 2012, they have a 25% difference, higher cost of living than this area, and their utility bills are 51% more than Utah.
Okay, so
And yet
let's-
you've compared, this
let's-
company to them for the salaries.
I didn't do that,
Pieces.
but let's
Let's
do the,
compare apples to apples here.
let's do a
Yeah.
compensation study and make it, and just resolve it that way.
No. See, we're way past that.
Well, I know
This
you are,
company has
because you're
used
not
Truckee,
confused by the
California.
facts.
No, and they've used APPA for your salary, and you just said, we're not even compared to anything, and yet we compare your general counsel salary to the APPA
So
general
you're
counsel?
gonna just pull it out of your ear now?
No, I'm just saying that this
'Cause this
company
anecdotal-
has
this-
cherry-picked, this company has cherry-picked where they want to compare themselves to.
Just as
And
you
they've cherry-picked Truckee, and they've cherry-picked Pacific Corp and APPA to come up with the salaries and benefits that they have right now.
So what
So,
is your?
for our short little survey, where we called and talked to people and got names and dates and figures that we can back up as facts, all right? Then for you to say, oh, it's all wrong now, no, it's not all
No,
wrong,
it's your-
and we stick by those facts.
Good, then I'm sorry for you. but that's okay.
Well, I'm
'Cause you're-
sorry too for where we're at.
No,
Believe me,
because you're doing it.
this is not an
What
issue
is
about
wrong with-
7% or a subsidy coupon less than that. This is not the issue. The real issue here, people, I hope you'll just consider this, is that do we really think the debt that we're going to pay for the next 21 years, given on the debt we've refinanced and taken out just in the last 4 years, right? Do we really think we're not going to need any more debt for the next 21 years? Of course we are. We're going to be needing this 7 million plus that Blaine's talking about. We're going to need more debt in 10 years. We're going to need more debt in 20 years. And how much more debt is this company going to absorb because of a very high compensation structure, benefit structure, as well as raising rates and
But
comparing
why not-
ourselves to very expensive places?
Well, and so your approach is to put out there false information about.
This is not false information.
You-
We can
you
back
said-
up all
you-
of our facts.
You said in a public hearing that Mr. Stewart was mistaken about the
Okay,
2000.
here it is on page 68 of the bond agreement in November 23rd, 2010. Heber Light Power issued 6.525 electric bond series with coupon interest rates ranging from 3% to 7%.
Right, and
So I
you
said
ignored
that.
it. You
So
ignored
I
it.
said that
You ignored the
7%.
subsidy.
It's not mentioned right there.
Right.
I was
You-
reading it.
Then
Now
you should
later
do
on
your
it's talking.
homework before you go out to the
When I
public.
try to do my homework, Mr. Stewart does not
You have-
answer my questions. Mr. Miller refers it to Mr. Stewart. When I even called Mr. Pender on Friday to ask him 2 questions, Mr. Stewart says, I'm unwilling for Mr. Pender to give me the
You have
information.
never darkened my door or come over
No,
to
I
the plant
haven't,
to
because
sit
I
down.
work
could have-
full-time.
And I could have explained, you call me, I'll be there. I could have explained these things to avoid the very misstatements that you're now defending, notwithstanding the facts.
I can only read this material and go by what it says. It's saying 3 to 7%.
How long is that document?
How long is the document? It's 113 pages.
Right, so you picked one piece out and you misunderstood.
Because it says it very
Would you
plainly.
please
There it is.
understand that?
But also in the positives, in the official
Mr. Dunn, I
statement
am
is the
not trying
table
to
you just
insult
seen.
you.
That explains the Build America component of that, which reduces it by 35%, Heidi.
But you see,
You never,
that is in
have you
much,
ever called me and asked to come over and explain any of these things? The answer is no.
that's because I do work full-time. And I have other responsibilities, and I'm trying to get this
And
information
I'm trying to run
and
Heber
pull
Light
it
and Power
out.
too.
But
Now, also
Then why
Heidi,
is it that you will refuse to have Mr. Pender give me 2 questions, that information?
because I don't understand what the relevance is, why you want them.
You do
never
not
asked.
understand the
Can we-
relevance of
why-
demand
Why
elasticity?
didn't you come to the company and say, I would like to know this information? Instead of paying
Because
Mr.
I'm
Pender.
thinking about this off and on through many days, and it comes to me, okay, I need to ask this
No.
information. I'm not able to talk to Mr. McDonald all the time because he's very busy. I do not think the other board members understand what that
You never
is.
call me.
And so I called Mr. Pender because he has said, if you have questions, come to me.
but you've stated all of that may be 100% true, and I believe it is, but let's use this as an example. You've picked one sentence out of a 100-some
Look,
page
I don't
document.
think
No, let me
this is one
finish.
thing, Joe.
Yeah, and I can
We've
add
got 5 things we're worried about.
2002, everything, why would people follow your suggestions when you have 2002 to 2012 bonds and the savings are substantial? Yes, you can grab a little piece.
No, look, I have studied debt for years at the federal
You haven't
government
studied
level.
my debt.
Well, the principles still apply,
No,
Joe.
my debt is, no, these numbers don't apply. If you,
Look,
it doesn't matter theory.
Even
At
if
the
you
end of
did
the
get
day,
a
you have to deal with it.
$600,000 premium off of the bond, we still have to pay it back with
That
interest.
is not true.
Yes, we do.
No,
We have to pay back every single penny that those investors gave us in the bonds.
no.
With interest.
You pay off at the rate of the bond. You don't pay off at the amount they paid for the bond. It works just the
That's
opposite.
perftly fine
Let's
if you want to
maybe
keep
hold this
saying
a little
that.
bit
I'm
further.
just saying that
The
the bond
conversation's
is
getting a
one
little out of
thing.
hand.
Well, let me,
There was some personal information, I think, miscommunication between maybe what some information Heidi had and what the gentleman. It's probably best if you can sit down with Blaine and Joe personally and walk through the numbers again and have, I think it's probably a preference that we maybe ask them first and get their opinions. If you don't get the information, you can come and talk to committee, exec committee. but let them walk through it first before we make some of this information public. But there's some questions you still have, instead of time rest the board, between the difference what Joe thinks and what Heidi thinks. Let's let you meet together and work it out on
We'll have the
your time.
debate then.